Hello, everybody. This is Jay with Guilty of Crime, and hopefully you can hear me. I've got this new setup. If anybody could let me know if they can hear me, it's Sadie's mama. Hey, Sadie's mama, can you hear me? I'm on this new setup, and I'm really hoping that I'm tuning out the background noise. Yes, good. Got a new microphone, got new headphones so that you can't hear the dogs barking and everything. So let me skip back a little bit. So I am doing Scott Peterson today, and I want to talk about him because it's well, first of all, my mom asked me to do it, and she wants to know all about, do we think that Scott Peterson's going to get out and be innocent? We know he got off of death row. Maybe we're in California. Hey, Sadie's mama, Carly. It's the middle of the day on a Friday, so this is cool. For me, it's 1 o'clock. For you all, it might be maybe 4 o'clock. I'm not sure. But let's talk about this. Let's talk about Scott Peterson. And hey, Jura13, what's up? Good to catch you here. I'm glad you saw that. I changed the time. Oh, it's 1 p.m. too. Nice. I did not know that. And now I remember. Greeno said that he's on the same time. I always think you guys are 3 hours ahead. So that's cool. That's nice. And yeah, tomorrow I'll be on in the midday too. People love Saturdays because it's kind of like dead on the Saturday and there's not a lot of new stuff. So awesome. The notifications worked, and I think that's because I've been putting out a lot more content and getting a lot of hits on my shorts. So that when I get hits on the shorts, I get new people sharing my stuff and subscribing. I'm actually up to over 200 subscribers now, everybody. That's awesome. Thank you guys. Thank all of you. All right, so let's go. Let's talk about the Scott Peterson. Let's do a recap really quick. Uh, I'm going to just go ahead and do my normal little recap that I do. I do a quick summary and make sure nothing else goes off here because I've got a lot of video going up, and that's the only thing I hate about YouTube sometimes. Ah, no! Now I know you can hear that now. Let's find out. There it is. All right. So now we know. We already know all that. We know he was convicted. So that's why we're finding out if he is going to be let out. What do we think? There's a LA Innocence Project now, and the LA Innocence Project is trying to get him out. So that's what we're talking about. But we're going to do a recap of him, and I'll do a quick summary because some people don't know. Uh, some people don't know about, first of all, this case. And I want to talk about this case because I lived in Modesto when this happened. And I always love to talk about cases that are local to me at the time. And yeah, I agree. And he was found guilty. So he's guilty right now. But there's so many reasons why people think he's not. And I'll go over that to see if anything changes your mind, because you got to remember when he got convicted, DNA wasn't a huge thing and they didn't have a lot of it. But leading up to the case and why he got convicted is going to be, it's kind of a big thing. And yeah, it really is a big thing because a lot of it was circumstantial, which nowadays you can get convicted on circumstantial easy, but they're making a big deal out of it. So let's see why they're making a big deal out of it. And let's do this one. I'll share this with you all. Let's see how this looks and see if I can zoom in on this. Yeah, I can. I want you to. Oh, way too much. All right, let's see how it looks here. Oh, great. You can see it all. All right. So that's awesome that you all are here. I'm not talking to myself, which I thought I would be in the middle of the day, but I'm not. So you can see the pictures before I go over the summary and the timeline. These summaries and timelines I put together, by the way, I really like to do that. I like to compile the information so I can go over with you, kind of read it to you, and then have you see the pictures. So I'm not out on the web searching on Google, having things pop up, and then maybe get my video taken down. So I'm going to be careful of that today when I show some of the things that are recaps because I'm not always sure. Law and crime will let you use it sometimes, and then other times they will nix you for it and just pull it down. So the other day I got pulled down for something, and then the copyright was days before I did it. So they actually hadn't copywritten it at all, and then and then and then they pulled it down right in the middle of the video. Sadie's mama was there, and so we restarted it. That was the Doctor Death case. And yeah, solid DNA evidence. Let's put that up there. So only solid ID and evidence would change my opinion. Carly says everyone just wants to be a contrarian these days, right? Right, I agree. And I think this LA Innocence Project, to me, I'm always going to give my opinion, even though we're talking about it. It doesn't mean that you agree or that it's right, but I think it's ridiculous and I think it's a huge waste of money. But if you take this generation now, they're looking back at these cases and they're thinking, oh, look at this guy. He was good, but there's no evidence. And he's this good looking guy. And just because he had an affair, he didn't do it. That's what I hear out of this. Again, this is just my opinion. It doesn't mean anything at all. It just means that that's what I think. And you can all have an opinion and express it. And I'll always be nice about it. I'll always agree to disagree with you. So say whatever you want. That's okay. I'm down with that. All right. So take a look at these pictures. I mean, this was him way back when, and I could see, he was a good looking guy. When I did the Dahmer case, I talked about him being a good looking guy for the 80s and 90s, but this guy's a good looking guy. He really is. He's not so good looking here after prison's aged him. And if you remember, he used to be chubby. If you look here, when he was with Laci while she was pregnant, he was actually a pretty chubby guy. They were married. She was pregnant. He was pretty comfortable, but he was kind of fat and happy. So, uh, Laci was beautiful. I can't even understand. No, no beef with Amber Frey. I actually appreciate her. She didn't know that he was married, and we'll get into how that all happened, but you could see him here and then you could see him here, and he was dating them at the exact same freaking time. He literally was married to one with a 8 month or 9 month pregnant. I can't remember. She was right about to give birth. So you could see this going on, and he's literally telling this mistress here that he had met at a Christmas party while he was supposed to be at a Christmas party with his wife. He didn't go, and instead he went with her. So, this happened, this little personal background. Good looking guy. Even he was good looking there. Good looking wife. They lived in Modesto, California. I'm in San Jose, California now. So that's about a hour and 45-minute drive. It's considered the valley. So I lived in Modesto at the time. I went to MJC, which is a junior college there, and all of this stuff happened. So, of course, I was into the case. Now, look at these great looking people. They got together. They started a bar together, or like a little restaurant type of thing. And they were the typical, had a good, what is that? The American dream life. And instead of going with it and having a baby, he decided he wanted to uh, cheat with this lady here. Now, I think a big part of the case was his downfall when they found out that he had a mistress. And yeah, many people say that the reason that he was convicted was because people were convicting him of being a cheater and not necessarily a murderer. So there's some of the pictures, and you can see here, this was after a little while after he got arrested. He slimmed down, and then you can see here, this is him nowadays, looking pretty haggard and pretty much like he was in prison. And as you know, he was on death row. He was on death row for a long time, and then California overturned that. Again, not sure why, but we'll look into it a little bit. So let's do a quick summary. If you don't know about Scott Peterson, this made national news. So even though it was Modesto, California, and we all knew about it, it made headlines because it was a all American couple. They came from good families. And by the way, Scott Peterson was a sales guy, and he was selling shit essentially. He was selling lawn fertilizer. So he was selling shit. This guy was a good salesman, right? So Scott Peterson was convicted for murder of his wife, Laci Peterson, and their unborn son, Connor, in 2004. The case gained significant media attention because it was the perfect all American family, obviously. Peterson was arrested after inconsistencies in his alibi and behavior raised suspicions. Key evidence included Peterson's affair, which really isn't evidence of murder, but there's a lot of things in there that, like, he told Amber Frey that it was his first Christmas without his wife. He was a widow. She had died, and she wasn't dead, and she was missing. He didn't think this was going to make national news. So his behavior following Laci Peterson's disappearance and the fact that he was fishing in the area where Laci's body was later found. Additionally, forensic evidence such as hair and cement residue linked him to the crime. So, Carly, there's the DNA evidence, and I believe in that evidence as well. He made cement blocks, and then he used the cement blocks to weigh the bodies down, which were later found in the bay where he was fishing on Christmas while his while his wife was 9 months pregnant. Now, when they found the body and they found the wife, and she had given birth either when he killed her or after. So sadly, they found her and they found the baby wash up on the shore of San Francisco, which in fact he was fishing. But at first he said, "Oh, on Christmas I was either fishing or I was golfing. I'm not sure which one." And then he came back to, "Okay, I was fishing." He had a boat. Laci didn't even know about the boat. He had bought it and stored it in a storage that they had. So she never even knew, and nobody knew he had a boat. So, I mean, all this is suspicious. All of these are coincidences, and none of this is evidence. But we hear about the forensic evidence such as hair and cement residue. Now, the prosecution argued that Peterson killed his wife to pursue a relationship with his mistress, Amber Frey, and avoid responsibility. Ultimately, the jury found him guilty of first degree murder for Laci's death and second degree for Connor, the baby's death, leading to his conviction and subsequent sentence of life in prison without possibility of parole. But I don't know why it doesn't say he was on death row, which he was on death row. This may have been I may have been looking this up after that change. So here's a brief timeline of the key events in the Peterson case. December 24th, Christmas Eve, 2002, Laci Peterson, who was 8 months pregnant, disappears from her home in Modesto, California. December 26th, 2 days later, Scott Peterson reports his wife missing to the police. I don't know what he was doing in the 2 days, but probably talking to Amber Frey, which later was confirmed. And, they got all the phone calls and she recorded a lot of things. So, December 31st, the Peterson family holds a press conference appealing for Laci's safe return. January 17th, 2003, this is a year later, Scott Peterson is arrested in San Diego after his car is found with his hair dyed blonde. We have a picture here. I don't have a picture of his hair blonde, but we'll see that, and we'll probably see that later in his mugshot. His hair was blonde when he was trying to get out, and he was carrying large amounts of cash and with camping equipment in his trunk, which I don't know if you people know, but San Diego is very close to Mexico. You can go all the way down San Diego and then after that be in Tijuana. So yeah, he was heading there, and he stopped off to play golf. He acted like, what? I was just playing golf, but they found all this stuff in his car. So um let's see, where were we? He Okay, they hold a press conference. He was arrested in San Diego with camping gear and equipment in his trunk, lots of cash. April 13th, 2003, 6 months or so, a few months, 5, 6 months later, the decomposed bodies of Laci Peterson and her unborn son Connor are found washed ashore in the San Francisco Bay, near where Scott Peterson said had been fishing. Again, he said he was fishing, said he was golfing, came back to fishing. Who knows? But yeah, there's a lot of inconsistencies, which still doesn't equal guilt. And I think that's why they're coming back for this. Scott Peterson is arrested and charged with 2 counts of murder. April 21st, 2003, Peterson pleads not guilty to the charges. November 12th, 2004, Peterson's found guilty of first degree for the death, second degree murder of the death. We talked about that. There you go. He was on death row for a long time. March 16th, 2005, he's sentenced to life in prison without parole, which is the death penalty. It doesn't say that, but yeah, California's gotten soft since then. So this is the timeline of the major milestones in the case, and because we're gonna go back and forth. I'm gonna do a quick overview because I want to show you a lot of the key people in the case. I want to go back to 2002, 2003, 2004, and you'll see that because you'll see some of the videos are kind of old. All right, so Amber Frey MVP. Yes, she is. She definitely did the right thing. She was unlike Chris Watts's. Well, you know what? The Chris Watts case, she did tell ultimately, but I think she had more to do with it. I don't think she necessarily knew about it before, but she knew about it after. All right, so remember that I was going to leave, and then you say with whom? With whom, Sadie's mama? What do you mean with whom? I am already past that part, I think. So, Amber Frey was a key figure in the Scott Peterson case. Once she came forward, people just in it, like the Delphi case, it was tried in the media because at the time media was big, and he was convicted already in the media. So she was a massage therapist with whom Peterson had an extramarital affair around the time of his wife Laci's disappearance. In fact, he had only known her for 16 days when this came out. That's unbelievable. It was only a couple weeks. Frey initially had no knowledge that Peterson was married. But when she discovered the truth, she contacted the police and cooperated with them fully and their investigation. Her cooperation with the law enforcement included recorded conversations with Peterson, which provided crucial evidence against him. These recordings revealed Peterson's lies and deceptive behavior regarding his marriage and the disappearance of his wife. Frey's testimony played a significant role in the prosecution's case against Peterson, and her involvement in the case garnered significant media attention, which we're going to show here. We're going to show her doing a press conference. And she became a central figure in the public narrative surrounding the trial. Despite the media scrutiny and personal challenges she faced, her cooperation with the authorities contributed to the eventual conviction of Scott Peterson for the murder of his wife Laci and their unborn son Carter. Okay, so now we're gonna really talk about, and you can make your opinion if you don't know about the case. Great, then now you're knowing about the case. If you know about the case, what do you think on this new part? Many years later, of them saying that he didn't do it. Is he gonna walk? Is he innocent? Did we convict the wrong person? And you're gonna see why, because they're gonna talk about why. So let's actually see if anybody changes their mind here. Let's see if you think that maybe he didn't do it. I don't know. I would love to see it get back to trial, but I can tell you right now that so far he's had he's been denied many times of a new actual trial. So even though he got out of death row, that was a California thing, and it didn't really necessarily have to do with him and his innocence. So, not to say that these other theories that you're going to see coming up didn't mean that somebody else did it, because there were alternative theories. And like the Delphi case, everybody speculated about a whole bunch of things. He has quite a bit of support even after they find out. So let me pause this because I want you to see the Modesto, California sign. Nope, my mind's not changing. uh, yeah, there you go. I don't know if my mind's changing. I'm gonna watch these things. Some of the things I didn't see, I do want to see it go to trial again so I can actually see if my mind does change. That'd be interesting. All right, let's play this one. Let's see what is it. Okay, so here's him becoming a prime suspect. I told you the huge amount of summary, backstory, and all that stuff. So now you can start to see the actual people, cases, so forth. All right, here we go. He becomes a prime suspect. Let's go.
Laci went missing Christmas Eve. She's 27 years old and she is over 8 months pregnant.
Law enforcement zoned in on Scott immediately.
I knew he had killed her.
Our family has known since the beginning that Scott is innocent. So you have someone who goes missing in this window of time, and you have a felony occurring in this window of time. And to think that they're not related is a difficult thing to ignore. It's been 18 years, and there should be answers to questions. I think if people step back and look at the evidence in this case, they're going to see this crime isn't solved.
I'm ready to go back to court. Let's do it again. I'd be ready to testify. I'd go back at it again. Because he deserves to be where he is.
My daughter convinced us this morning. She's 8 months pregnant. She took her dog for a walk in the park.
The story of Laci Peterson's disappearance made news soon after she disappeared, because it's Christmas Eve 2002. It became national news pretty quickly. And she is carrying their first child. She's just weeks out from birth.
Scott and Laci Peterson, I mean, it's right out of a romance novel. They were college sweethearts.
Describe your son.
He was a very affectionate, just a really kind, sweet little guy.
Never in trouble of any kind.
Laci, by all accounts, was just a bundle of energy and was always concerned about helping other people.
They had been married not very long. They had bought the house a couple of years earlier. Laci was a homemaker.
How did Scott feel about the fact that he was going to be a father? Very excited.
Happy.
Seems that when she got pregnant.
I actually wanted to bring that up. If you look at Nancy Grace there, this is before she was just out of her mind. All of her headlines are just outrageous, and she's so accusatory of everybody. And I believe it actually says she was a legal analyst here for CNN, but at some point she was a prosecutor. I'm sure all you know that. So we get to see all of these people that we know now, that we know and we love, because we use all of their all of their information to get ours. Well, a lot of us do. I do. And Casey Anthony Broker, you know what? I think a lot of people are broken now. We're going to see Mark Garagos. And Mark Garagos, you've seen him nowadays. He's a madman, but he's also celebrity lawyer. But yeah, she was a lawyer. And check this out. Watch this. I do like Nancy's passion and sarcasm, but I steer away from her articles a lot because she's so one-sided when I am as far as, like, if I think somebody's guilty, but I'm not going to sit there and insult people that have a different opinion, and she tends to do that. So I like her, but I'm never going to insult you for having a different opinion. So anyway, let's get back to it. I had to watch all these people here. They're all young babies.
With Connor, things started going sideways.
The first person you focus at in a homicide investigation is the person closest to the victim and the last person to see the victim. And of course, boom, boom, we got both of those with Scott.
He claims that he woke up in the morning and he and Laci had breakfast together. He thought maybe he was going to play golf, but because it was rainy and cold, he decided not to play golf, but to go fishing. Scott finished fishing that day at some point in the afternoon and made a phone call to Laci.
Hey, beautiful. I won't be able to get to Villa Farms to get that basket for Papa. I was hoping you would get this message and go on out there. I'll see you in a bit, sweetie. Love you. Bye.
I mean, Scott's telling me when I interview him, when I get home, her car is in the driveway.
So I entered through the back gate. Mackenzie came running up to me. He did have his leash on, which isn't that weird.
I learned Laci was missing when Scott called that evening and asked if she was out.
I'm taking little breaks on things and commenting just so that we can break it up and I don't get doxxed for this, because this is a good live and I don't want to have to redo it. So yeah, this gives a good idea of the story and the people. And yeah, this start the lies. Now, he knew if he was innocent, or I mean, if he was guilty, he already was setting this up. He knew he wanted to leave a message, so he looked like he was a concerned husband and that he could leave kind of a paper trail, so to speak, an audio trail. But he also did things that like go out to the bay and continue to go back and forth to that after they found the bodies. And he didn't know they were tracking him. He went back there over and over on a tracker, and eventually it washed up there. The bodies washed up there. So do you find these to be coincidences? I don't know.
Our house. Immediately he came back with saying that she was missing. And I remember feeling that just a little agitated about that word, the word that he used, missing. It's like, how can you be missing? She's not missing.
There was no evidence of a struggle or no evidence of tampering or forced entry. There was nothing that was missing from the house.
So of course the police start looking at him.
So he was questioned for over 7 hours the first night that Laci went missing.
He just doesn't seem like the guy whose wife is missing. His demeanor was suspicious.
We began an immediate search of the park and river areas.
I always blame the husband, and I am almost always right. I start with the presumption that the husband did it, but there were alternative theories.
One is she was kidnapped.
Now, this is the day after Christmas they're doing it. And yeah, I'm looking here. This is ABC News, but I also see that it's Nightline. So I don't want to, let's see what, this is only 8 minutes. So, and it is the news. So let's hope, and I'll stop it a little bit and talk so they don't dock me. But yeah, Geraldo Rivera is huge back then. Like every person that ever did anything or got off on something or was a part of the case, he interviewed. So, yeah, I wanted to show some of his stuff on prior videos, and I couldn't because, you know. Anyway, let's keep going. It's not that long of a video, and yeah.
By a satanic cult. Another one was a burglary that was across the street from the Peterson home.
Satanic
the
cult,
police needed
guys.
to look at other possibilities, but they needed to.
Sorry, I had to stop that because a freaking satanic cult. Man, that satanic panic thing was real. And that's what Delphi reminds me of. You know my opinion on Delphi already, and I don't believe any of that. To me, it's all mumbo jumbo garbage. The whole Odinism thing and why the killings happen. So when I hear this about cults and when they had the satanic panic, I never believed that. Now, Richard Ramirez was a lot different because he was actually this evil guy that would put these pentagrams up. And that was him. I mean, he was just evil and he loved to do that. But it certainly wasn't a cult. So let's keep going.
Stay on Scott. They needed to do what they did.
There's absolutely no physical evidence at all that Scott committed this crime.
We pretty much dealt with all of the satanic cults, the dog walkers. The only thing we couldn't eliminate was Scott.
Earlier this week, the Modesto Police Department was made aware of an article that was to appear in the National Enquirer revealing new information regarding Laci's case. The family members were shown very recent pictures of Scott and a girlfriend.
Okay, first of all, I met Scott Peterson November 20th, 2002. Scott told me he was not married. We did have a romantic relationship.
Amber Frey had met with detectives and gave information about the relationship with Scott Peterson. And Amber Frey has been eliminated as a suspect in Laci Peterson's disappearance.
I was just starting my career in massage therapy. You know, my daughter was very young.
Nowadays, we know what massage therapy means. I hate to say that. I'm not trying to talk about Amber Frey because she certainly sealed the deal in the case. But it's funny because, yeah, you can't even post ads anywhere for massage therapy without people thinking that you're going to do sexual favors or you're a sex worker. And you can't even make it in the field unless you're a real good massage therapist. So I think that's funny that she was that. She was a massage therapist, and Scott Peterson was a salesman that sold the shit. So kind of sounds like the case, right?
Very small and a single mother. He was good looking. He was nice. He was funny and attentive to me.
She really thought she had Mr. Right.
Scott knew Amber for 16 days when he got caught being married.
He was very emotional and said that this would be the first holidays without her. And he was crying at that point. I took it as she died. Didn't know how, if, an accident or cancer. Or I had no idea. I didn't pry.
She didn't know about Scott and Laci missing until her friend told her, hey, that guy you brought to the Christmas party, he's on TV every day.
And so I went to the other room and called the Modesto Police Department hotline.
Amber Frey started cooperating with police.
I buy her a tape recorder with some cassette tapes and a wire that can hook onto her phone. And
the internet's being a little bit funky here, so we're going to go over more things. I'm going to fast forward a little more. You can see what's going on. We're going to tie those together. I just don't want this to get pulled down, so let me fast forward a little bit. I want to go past her. I want to get pulled down for that Nightline thing.
I'm near the Eiffel Tower. You yourself is unreal.
Okay, so this is what I wanted to show you. He says he's he's at the Eiffel Tower and not even close. He's at a vigil. I don't know why this is freezing up right now. I hope I'm still on. I wonder if I got pulled down. Am I still on there, anybody? Because I just froze up here. All right, well, I'm going to check here. Nobody's saying anything. And everything's freezing up on me. So we'll pull some of these down. And, yep, did it get pulled down? We're saying yep. Let's see. I tried for not to. Nothing's working right now. No, we're still on. Okay. So it's just freezing on me. And Okay, so it's a 20 or 30-second delay, which is good. So I don't want to get this pulled down, but I want you to hear the Eiffel Tower thing, and I'm going to try to play it.
You've got, I mean, this guy's wife is missing. The entire country is looking for her. And he's not only keeping his girlfriend at bay, he's entertaining her with these outlandish lies.
Amber Frey was critical to the case because she provides a motive for why now.
To commit a crime like this, you have to have a screw loose at the very least. And those Amber Frey tapes made it seem like Scott Peterson has a screw loose.
Scott, why don't you answer some questions?
He now is enemy number one. Everybody hates Scott Peterson.
Did you murder your wife?
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC.
All right. So that should, let's see where I am. Yeah, everything's freezing. There it is. All right. We're all done with that. So as long as I'm still there, we're good. You need to have come to I'm playing it in fair use. Okay. So it didn't get pulled down and we're good. It says he's on court TV right now. It looks like I should be good. I'm just going to keep less things up. And no, you're right. I can use a lot of the new law and crime. And it is a fair use act if I'm playing it and talking about it. And even if I use a disclaimer, they don't always let me do that. But I have more to go. I want to do this press conference, and this is totally fine. I'm using, it's an old, it's Carol DeRanch, and it's funny because that's like a Ted Bundy, it's a name for Ted Bundy's old girlfriend, which is totally not, it's not her. So let's do the Amber Frey press conference. Oh yeah, I was trying to go onto the cell phone to see if it was going. I just hadn't got there yet. And yeah, I couldn't get back on StreamYard to even mute it. So yeah, but I do have another computer that I can pull this up on in case that happens, and I'll do that while I'm playing that. So let's share screen, and let's do the Amber Frey press conference. That one's great, and they're not going to stop it.
First of all, I want to thank you for your patience. We'd like to preface the news conference by requesting that you respect our willingness to inform the media to limited information that does not compromise the investigation. Ms. Amber Frey will make a brief statement and she will not answer any questions. Today, because of extensive efforts by some members of the media, Amber Frey was identified and contacted by reporters at her place of business. She notified the Modesto police and out of contact and her safety and privacy, she is prepared to give a statement and she will not accept any questions. Ms. Amber Frey.
Okay, first of all, I met Scott Peterson November 20th, 2002. I was introduced to him. I was told he was unmarried. Scott told me he was not married. We did have a romantic relationship. When I discovered he was involved in the Laci Peterson disappearance case, I immediately contacted the Modesto Police Department. Although I could have sold the photos of Scott and I to tabloids, I knew this was not the right thing to do. For fear of jeopardizing the case or the police investigation, I will not comment further. I'm very sorry for Laci's family and the pain that this has caused them. And I pray for her safe return as well. I would appreciate to my friends and acquaintances to refrain from talking about me to the media for profit or recognition. I am a single mother of a 23-month-old child, and I ask to respect my privacy. Thank you.
Amber Frey had contacted Modesto Police Department on Monday, December 30th, 2002. She met with detectives and gave information about the relationship with Scott Peterson. This information was verified by a variety of means, and Amber Frey has been cooperative in the investigation and has been eliminated as a suspect in Laci Peterson's disappearance. For the near future, we've asked Ms. Frey not to make any statements to the media. It is her desire that you respect her privacy. Please don't follow, harass, or make any other attempts to interview her during the investigation. This concludes the press conference. And just a reminder, again, as we have in the past, we'll notify you if there's a significant event occur, give you ample time to respond for a presser. I will try to answer some questions, but I'm still limited, as I have been for the last month, in my response. We'll take, hold on. We'll take one question at a time, and I'll decide who's going to make it. Yes, sir. F-R-E-Y.
I'm not sure why this isn't letting me
Amber.
do anything.
And you will
My
have,
StreamYard
we will
froze.
have a news release that should be available any second as soon as it comes down from the stairs. Lori.
There we are. I'm going to stop this. And I'm going to pull everything off. Yes, hit the like for the algorithms. Thank you. Yeah, this, for some reason, StreamYard, everything else is working, but on StreamYard, it's showing that I have connections unstable. Okay, now it says commonly, connections fairly good. If you're on Wi-Fi, try plugging it in. You know, I could probably get this to the router at some point, but we're still on, so let's keep going with this. I think we're doing pretty good. Everyone got to see the so far you got to see everything. You got to see the press conference, you got to see Scott, you got to see the guilty the reason he was guilty, but I do want to show now why people are saying that he should get a new trial for being innocent. So whether I agree with that or not doesn't really matter. What it matters is what you think and what other people think, and the way that the LA Innocence Project picked this up. There's got to be some other information that we don't know about, unless it's just this information that we're going to share here. If it's just this information, that's interesting, because I honestly don't find these speculations about other people that you're going to see. I don't see that it's going to get them a new trial, because so far it hasn't, and B, do anything really for him. So I'm going to pull something up, and we're going to let's do the on the Scott innocence. We're going to do something on his innocence and why they think he's innocent. So let me pull that up, and 1 second. All right. Hopefully we can get this playing a little better, and it doesn't freeze up on me. All right, let's go.
This midday in the Scott Peterson case. He is the California man convicted of murdering his pregnant wife 2 decades ago, a case that absolutely dominated headlines. This morning, a former California fire official who says key evidence was not properly investigated is speaking exclusively to ABC News. ABC's Kana Whitworth has the story.
This morning, an ABC News exclusive. A former fire investigator speaking for the first time since that bombshell filing in the Scott Peterson case about the potential of new evidence.
This has always been one of those things that kind of sits in the back of your head and kind of bugs you a little bit. And you kind of wonder why this didn't happen or why it wasn't brought up.
Nearly 2 decades after Scott Peterson was convicted of murdering his pregnant wife, Laci, the Los Angeles Innocence Project demanding the case be reevaluated, largely hinging on information from then Modesto fire investigator Brian Spitulski. Spitulski investigating this burned-out van found the morning after Laci disappeared in December 2002, located less than a mile from the Peterson home. Lawyers from the Los Angeles Innocence Project now zeroing in on evidence from a mattress in the back of that van with a red and brown stain on it.
You have this woman, she's 8 months pregnant, she's missing, this van is of high interest, and now a sample from a mattress on that van has tested presumptive positive for blood. What were you thinking in that moment?
You know, I don't know that I was tying the moment to Laci. I was more tying the moment that it was human blood. It made it like this was much more important than just a burned vehicle that somebody was just wanting to get rid of or cover up a simple crime.
In a court filing, lawyers say DNA testing done on a small portion of that mattress several years later was insufficient to determine whether DNA from Laci or their unborn son was present.
You feel strongly that this evidence should be reassessed?
Absolutely, especially if we've got sample that can still be tested.
Laci's disappearance captivated the country, suspicion against Scott already mounting when his then girlfriend, Amber Frey, came forward about their affair. Prosecutors later arguing Scott's motive for killing Laci was for a $250,000 life insurance policy. A jury siding with the prosecution in 2004, convicting Scott of first-degree murder for the death of Laci and second-degree murder for the death of their unborn son, Connor.
I don't have an agenda or an opinion on his guilt or his innocence. This is, for me, it's a fire investigation in a vehicle that has blood, possible blood, on the mattress. And that right there is important.
Former ABC News investigative producer Mike Gudgel has followed the case from the beginning.
I think it's still a mystery. The trial verdict was sort of unsatisfactory. It didn't say what really happened to Laci. And I think even the prosecution conceded that during the trial.
Brian Spitulski now works as a private fire investigator. Says the case has left a mark on him.
That I kind of agree with.
That sometimes keeps you up at night?
Absolutely.
Now, the Stanislaus District Attorney told us in his statement in part that Peterson's conviction was upheld in 2022 and added they can't comment further as litigation is pending. Now, the LA Innocence Project says that sensitive testing today could provide more information. Kana Whitworth, ABC News, Los Angeles.
All right. So I really wanted to, hold on real quick. Sorry about that. I really wanted to play more and I don't know why. Yeah, she wasn't the only pregnant woman in the area. Yeah, there were a lot of things that, I agree with that. We have no idea what actually happened to Laci. Obviously the body was washed up and because it was washed up, we don't know if she was strangled. We don't know anything about it. And also, there was no DNA evidence in the house. There was they took his car and they took her car. There was nothing to tie any blood to Laci to find that there was a crime scene that happened. So we wonder where was the crime scene? I don't know if anybody has any kind of suspicion about that or a theory, but where did it happen and what happened? So I think the case really did spin out of control when Amber Frey came forward, and then it was just that and his behavior. So that definitely got him convicted, and I think that they have the right man. But when you see these kind of things, 20 what, 20 years later, because it was in 2004. When you see him 20 years later, you have to say to yourself, where's the DNA? What happened? How do we know it happened? And they also have witnesses that say they saw Laci out walking the dog after supposedly she was dead, although I don't take that into account at all. Yeah, it was all a distraction. It was on the defense. It was the defense distracting. So I want to see if I can see any more. I really want to show Scott speaking on death row. Hopefully we can get through this or a couple more, because I wanted to do this live longer, but I don't know. I should have restarted this computer that I'm working on, and I can't really do it now. So I might actually do another part on this to go through a lot of the evidence, and there's so many good videos out there that I wanted to show. But let's I want to see him talking here. And let me get back to here. Let's see if I can get that going, and then
Beautiful, 8 months pregnant, goes missing on Christmas Eve of 2002. Her handsome husband, Scott, was having an affair. And despite virtually no physical or forensic evidence, he was convicted on 2 counts of murder and sentenced to death by lethal injection. Now, for the first time since he gave several televised interviews in 2003, Scott Peterson is talking publicly about the case. He proclaims his innocence in a newly released phone call that his sister-in-law recorded in June for a new A&E program called The Murder of Laci Peterson, airing on Tuesday nights. Speaking from death row at San Quentin Prison, Scott says lots of people saw his wife the day she vanished, and investigators dropped the ball.
I wasn't the last one to see Laci that day. There were so many witnesses who saw her walk in the neighborhood after I left. The cops just never followed up on the burglar across the street. The police failed to find my family.
And in 2004, when the jury found him guilty, Scott says he was shocked.
And I just had this weird sensation that I was falling forward and down, and there was going to be no end to this falling forward and down, like there was no floor to land on. I was staggered by it. I had no idea it was coming.
Scott Peterson is currently appealing his conviction. Here is his most recent mugshot from 2011. He doesn't have any infractions behind bars, we're told, and also that he uses the exercise yard and still get lots of mail. Here's one of more than 700 inmates on California's death row there at San Quentin. And the case here, Bill, obviously still a source of fascination.
Indeed. Well, all
even
these
after
years
all
later.
these years.
Yeah. Claudia, thank you. Claudia Cowan, fast.
All right, so you can see he definitely looks a lot different, right? He looks malnourished. Hold on real quick. Sorry about that. All right, I don't know if I can show that one. That's an Inside Edition one. I'm going to stay away from that one. So I have other ones, and hopefully I can show those. And I wish I could interact more. This definitely, I'm going to make sure to restart this thing before I do my next one. And if I can get a plug in here, if I can get a plug to this computer, which I haven't had a problem with, I will. I'm not sure if it's the weather or the actual internet, but anyway, this is interesting, right, guys? I mean, this is really painting a picture of what happened, and you can see, obviously, he's not on death row anymore, which I'm glad I showed that clip, because when we originally talked, it said he was in prison for life without the possibility of parole, which is the case now, but he did not get that sentence originally. So there's so many facets to this case. I'm going to try to go over some more, and I would interact more, but my computer's being weird, and I really want to just get this out there. So we saw the recap. We saw Scott. We saw him on death row. Let's see if I can play the 20 years later. Even if I can play any of it, I would be great. Let's see.
My most vivid memory of the time period where we heard that Laci was missing was that day. I was working for a local station in the San Francisco Bay Area, and we were dispatched down to Modesto to go cover this missing pregnant lady story. And I remember going up to the house, where Scott and Laci were living with their dog Mackenzie, and knocking on the door, and Scott comes out, and he doesn't want to be on television. And this was, to me, was so bizarre, because most people who have a missing loved one are screaming for attention. Please help us find our loved one. That wasn't the case with him. He was the direct opposite, said, please don't show me, gave us a flyer and kind of shoot us on our way. And my photographer and I both
because he was having an
okay,
affair.
This is a story that we are going to continue to cover. Now, did he do that because he had a girlfriend, which we, of course, didn't know about at the time, or what? But that is by far my most vivid memory of that time period, because I never experienced anything like it. A loved one is missing, and you don't want to participate in media coverage. For us, my photographer and I, that was the moment where we were thinking, we're going to stick with this story. By far the most memorable trial moment was Amber Frey, when she and Gloria Allred showed up at the courthouse and she got up and testified. It was a game changer, because at the time people thought, geez, Peterson's got a very good chance of walking here. But this woman, Amber Frey, completely changed the trial. She told this harrowing story about basically falling in love with Scott Peterson, and he didn't tell her that he was married. In fact, he told her.
So this isn't very long, but I'm going to go next to see what the evidence is and if there's any more evidence than that. I think the whole point of them saying that he's innocent is because the case was focused around him being a cheater and having a mistress, but no real DNA evidence. There's another video here that talks about the Innocence Project, and we'll watch this and then I'll show you that one.
According to her, that he had just lost his wife. Then they played the tapes of him lying to Amber Frey, saying, oh, I'm in Paris, it's beautiful, a New Year's celebration here. And the courtroom was absolutely riveted. It changed the trial 180 degrees. Amber Frey was the one moment of trial that completely changed it and completely sticks with me. I remember it like it was yesterday. So you think about it, back then there were no Ring doorbells. It was just a different, there were no surveillance video. Some gas stations had surveillance video, but it was always grainy. It was just inside. This never would have happened the same way today as it did then, in that the Petersons would argue Laci would have been seen walking Mackenzie the dog. Scott would never have been prosecuted had there been surveillance. And from the Roaches' standpoint and the state's standpoint, Scott would have been seen likely with his wife's dead body in the back of the pickup truck somewhere in this route, this big blue tarp in the back of a pickup truck. It would have been a totally different scenario, and we would know for sure what happened if indeed the exact same circumstances happened today with just surveillance. Surveillance would have made a huge difference. People get murdered all the time, obviously. This case was different. Why? Happened near the holidays. Laci Peterson was a beautiful, smiling, pregnant woman who was missing. It was a mystery. Where could this woman be? And there wasn't a lot going on at the time in terms of news, the news cycle. This is right, literally Christmas Eve. So it got a lot of play from the very beginning. And then suspicion starts to center around Scott, the guy who was going on all of these searches. It changed, and then Amber Frey enters the picture. This was like no other case at the time because the country was absolutely fascinated by this. They wanted to see it to the end. And there were so many people that hated Scott Peterson to the core. It added this element that was very rare, and it has only happened a few times, really, over the last couple decades, in terms of the general public being dialed into a case. The decision, Scott Peterson not getting a new trial. Am I surprised? No. In that he's Scott Peterson, and let's face it, this is someone who is notorious, someone who has still 20 years later has, people just absolutely despise this person. And this wasn't about the case. This was about the conduct of a juror, a specific juror, Rochelle Neese. Bottom line is this was a heavy lift for the defense to achieve what would have been a home run, a miracle to get a new trial, and he's not getting it. What do I think is next for Scott Peterson? The family is going to continue to fight.
Do you see now what I'm saying? I don't think that they have a lot of new evidence. I think that was just, like Sadie's mama said, it was just a distraction. It's all just a distraction. The people breaking in across the street. Oh, the people broke in across the street. And there was a few inconsistencies about a witness. It was an old lady that's probably not alive anymore, to be honest with you. That was a neighbor that said she saw Laci walking the dog, and then the dog had the leash and was out of the yard. There was things like that caused a little bit of reasonable doubt. But I guess what they're saying is the difference between then and now was that he was found guilty because he had a mistress and not because of the evidence at hand. And that nowadays people want to see DNA, and they expect to see DNA because that's a big deal here, right? We want to see forensics. We want to see, they have a body. They have a body, but is it a coincidence is what they're saying. So mind you, he doesn't have a new trial. He does not have a new trial. And which means, since he doesn't have a new trial, that doesn't mean that he's going to get off. When I say, is he innocent? I mean, do you think he's innocent because of the things that they're saying? Do you think that he's just a cheater and not a murderer? And that's what they're trying to get to trial now. No new trial, but do you think he's innocent? And do you think with this evidence that's weak, really weak, guys, it's really weak, do you think that he's going to get another trial with this weak evidence that they have? I don't know. I don't think he's going to get a new trial, but it just takes one judge to say that. Now, if he exhausts his, he had a chance with life without parole. No, he didn't. It's still, did he have it? I don't think he didn't have it changed to life without parole. It's still, it went from death row. Yeah, it went to death row. I'm sorry. He had it changed to life without parole. Correct. He's never going to get out unless he gets a new, unless he gets an appeal, and he gets appeal and a judge can try the case. Now, if he exhausts his appeals, then he's done. But the LA Innocence Project took on his case. So if they find something and dig it up, then he will have a new case. I'm going to put that on next about the LA Innocence Project. Let's finish watching this one, if I can get it back on. And then, I don't even think we need to watch this one anymore. I'm going to take it off so I can get back to, hopefully, my screen. All right. So, yeah, I don't think, yes, changed to life without parole. And are you right? I'm shocked that they took his case too. I have a clip of the LA Innocence Project, and I guess maybe they'll tell us why they took it, but it's just such a weak case, and he didn't get a new trial. So I don't understand why they're taking it, but they must have some information. Maybe we don't know. Maybe they picked it apart because they had 20 years to do so. But it's so weak. It's so weak. So let's see if I can pull that up without it freezing up. And then I wish I could go longer on this, but I may do. Maybe someone did make a large donation, and the Innocence Project. Well, they work on funding. They work on people funding them, right? And people donating their time. So he's not going to get Mark Garagos again, but he's going to get somebody that's good and that's looked at his case. So I don't know. He still doesn't have a new trial, guys. So that really means nothing. All right. So news clip of the LA Innocence Project. Let's see what they say. All right. So pause, and then we'll share that. All right.
The Los Angeles Innocence Project, which works to exonerate people through scientific evidence, has filed motions in the case asking for more DNA testing. Peterson insists he is innocent of murdering Laci Peterson when she was 8 months pregnant. Jonathan Vigliotti has more.
Over the past 2 decades, Scott Peterson maintained he did not kill his wife, and now the Los Angeles Innocence Project, a legal nonprofit, is seeking new evidence in an effort to exonerate him.
Scott Peterson's defense has always been that it wasn't him.
CBS News legal contributor Jessica Levinson.
That their theory is that Scott Peterson did not murder his wife, but it was actually somebody else.
Officers began a search of the couple's home.
Peterson was convicted of murdering his wife Laci and their unborn son on Christmas Eve in 2002, and then discarding her pregnant body into the San Francisco Bay.
We, the jury, in the above entitled cause, find the defendant, Scott Lee Peterson, guilty of the crime of murder.
He's serving life without parole after his death conviction was overturned in 2020. But in motions filed Wednesday, the LA Innocence Project says, quote, evidence has been discovered that points to Mr. Peterson's innocence. We spoke to Peterson's sister-in-law, Janie, in 2021. She's been leading the charge to prove Scott's innocence.
There's too many unanswered questions about that burglary to set it aside.
In the filings, the group claims police failed to investigate evidence connected to a burglary near the Peterson home on the day of Laci's disappearance. It also includes a request for DNA testing of a piece of cloth found on a blood-stained mattress in a burnt-out van that was a mile away from the Peterson home.
The decision of the LA Innocence Project to take the case revives interest in the case, but the case has been litigated. We should take this to mean there could be more discovery, but not necessarily that Scott Peterson is going to walk out of a prison.
CBS News has reached out to Peterson's attorney and the victim's family for comment, but has not heard back. For CBS Mornings, I'm Jonathan Vigliotti.
All right, y'all. That was weak. That was super weak. So what it did say, thank you, Jer13, you're awesome. What they did say was not a lot, but the two things that I took, number one, they were going to they want to test the DNA in the burnt out van that had blood on it. So there's the first thing, which I think they could do now. If they have it, they could do it before they ever even get into anything, right? They don't have to have a new trial. They can start doing that now and present that to a judge. Now, that's the only thing they have, really. So the one thing they have is the fact that there was a burglary in the area that day or the day before, and the actual van. They still have the evidence of the blood in the van that can be tested. Now, I think their other hope is that they can get more information if there's the evidence turned over to them, then they can start testing it and dispute what actually happened. So those are the things that those are the things that I think they're looking at, but they have to have something solid to get a new case. And I think they're hoping for, now we're in 2024, and maybe this happens in 2025 or 2026, and that a jury says, look at this reasonable doubt. There was blood on it that, I don't know, unless it's Laci's, I don't really see how that's going to tie to anything, because I did not see reasonable doubt in any manner about that. I think it was just Modesto is actually called Methdesto. If you know about that town, it's a lot of meth is produced in that town, and people do it a lot all the time. There's a bunch of meth heads just running around, so hence the name Methdesto. And so yeah, it's not a good town in the first place, and maybe those guys did a burglary, they're on meth and they wanted to get some more drugs. The van being burnt out, I could see maybe they think that they did that to Laci and there's some blood there, but there's not a lot of hope. And you heard the news lady saying that it doesn't mean that he's going to get a new trial. It doesn't mean that he's going to walk. So I really wanted to ask the question, do you think Scott Peterson's innocent? Not even do you think he's going to walk, because at this point, if they don't do it right, they're going to exhaust his appeals and then they're done. Yeah, and I agree. I think the jurors are better now as well. And the things that they look at, they do pay attention to way more detail. And I think that they're going to look at the tapes that were made, the recordings with Amber Frey. They're going to look at all the little things that he said to her about not having a wife, about being with her on Christmas and ditching the other wife and ditching the wife and not the mistress, about him being at a vigil and saying that he was in the Eiffel Tower and trying to hide. The reason he said that is because he wanted to hide from the mistress, and he didn't know it would make national news. So because he didn't think that, he didn't think she was going to see him on TV at the vigil. She was already working with the cops. So since she was working with the cops, she was privy to everything that was going on. So the whole time she was, after the 16 days of being wooed by him, she was already playing him, and he was dumb enough to fall for the bait. And I talked to her like, oh, hey, baby, this and that. I'd love to do another video and play all the before evidence, because some people don't know this case inside and out like I do. And so you didn't get to hear all the things going on that were absolutely stunning, and I know why he got convicted. Yeah, so there you go. That little bit of weak evidence. Yes, Jared 13, let's do it. If I have one person on, if I just have one person cheering me on, I could sit there and do it. And we can go back and we can watch some of the trial stuff. We can watch Mark Garagos, which, yeah, he's a great attorney. He's smoke and mirrors. So yeah, we now, and Sadie's mama, you're always there. Thank you. I never have to talk to myself when Sadie's mom is there. That's great. So you can see Innocence Project picks up the case because of that. I don't know if there's any new information, but he was denied a new trial. Let me see if I can play that real quick about him being denied a new trial, and if they say anything about why.
Parole, and then they were hoping to get a whole new trial based on some juror misconduct. As you know, Scott Peterson, Saturday, 20
Juror
years
misconduct
when he killed his wife Laci Peterson and 8-month-old Connor, yet unborn at that particular time. So that's where this thing is. Well, this week he was denied a new trial by a California judge. Happened just yesterday. This was something they've been banking on based on, really, like I said, juror misconduct. His attorney, Pat Harris, released a statement yesterday about the recent developments. He said, quote, obviously, we're disappointed in today's ruling, but this case is far from over. just in the last few months, we've learned new information that will prove Scott Peterson did not murder his wife, Laci. And we are going to continue to push forward until he is freed. So I would say that that's what attorneys do. That's what they say. I can't wait to see what the new evidence might be. Let's see what my panel has to think about this, because we thought this case was long gone, and I thought Joe Richardson's here. Richard Schoenstein's here. Joe, I thought this case had really reached the punctuation when his sentence was effectively commuted to life without the possibility of parole from a death sentence, and yet no. Did you think they had any chance with this juror misconduct argument?
Very little. And what the judge pointed out is the judge made a distinction between Scott Peterson's situation and the juror whose situation was questioned. Mark Garagos, these other folks.
I didn't even know they did that. I didn't know they were trying to get juror misconduct.
In a domestic violence situation that had the potential to make her biased, and therefore she could have been protested for cause and could have been dismissed from the jury. And so the judge said that this is really, her situation was more frankly like a love triangle, and she ended up filing a TRO or try to get a restraining order, not because she was scared of the lady or she considered herself a victim. It's just that she didn't want to get in a physical altercation while she was pregnant. And with child, and even the things that she said, it's kind of weird that she writes him letters afterward, and some of that kind of stuff, this particular juror. But even then, the judge said that was evidence of just her emotional reaction to the evidence. It didn't make her biased. It didn't make her someone that had predetermined that he was going to be convicted. And it's not as if there wasn't plenty of evidence there to convict him. I thought that it would come out this way. I think that it's I wouldn't say it's a fool's errand because it's their right to do, but I think it's slim and none him actually.
Yeah, they're never gonna, and I'm gonna say never now because I would bet a lot of money on that they're never gonna freaking do another trial because of juror misconduct 20 years later. Now, that was in question with the lady that she has some weird nickname because she has this bright pink hair and she was in the jury. But 20 years later, trying to pull off jury misconduct, that's ridiculous. He even says it. Don't finish watching it. Ridiculous.
Actually getting off on this thing and getting a new trial. He's lucky he got life. He got life because as opposed to death because of a juror issue. So he's going to have to take that and call it a day.
Yep, Slim and none, and Slim left town. Is that how that goes? I see that picture of Scott Peterson there with his hair dyed when he was in jail. I mean, is there a beauty shop in the prison there? What's the deal there? That's not my question, Rich. My question is, what new evidence could possibly be out there that is going to reopen this case?
I have no idea. But, we have seen convictions overturned years and years after somebody's been put in prison for murder or for other crimes. It does happen. And the system allows a lot of collateral attacks on a sentence, especially if you did come up. I mean, if you all of a sudden got evidence that somebody else did the murders and not the person in jail, we have a system that allows for that kind of evidence to be presented. Scott Peterson needs to have an advocate, somebody willing to take on his defense and to pursue those claims and to bring them to the attention of the court. It appears he has that. He had somebody for this juror misconduct issue, and now this lawyer says they have evidentiary issues as well. We will see. Do I think there's something there? Probably not.
But who knows? They need a Perry Mason moment, where somebody stands up and, admits to having done it. Mark Garagos, maybe he'll get involved again. I remember covering the Winona Ryder.
And, when you are innocent. Plus, this is the first time I really saw that somebody can have a whole lot of circumstantial evidence and still be guilty and no direct evidence. I am sure that he did it.
Yeah. And to your point, Rich. It's good that we have a system where you do have all these options. That's just the way it should be. So you got to shut those all down, and they've been doing that. We'll keep you posted, of course, if Scott Peterson actually does.
All right, so that's what I have for today. Yeah, I think we I like the Perry Mason moment. I don't remember what I was watching last night, but somebody brought that up about Perry Mason, and that's funny because those guys know they've been around the block quite a few times, and they understand that this guy's got slim to none chance. And Matlock, yeah, I think they understand that. And what they said was he's freaking lucky he's got life without parole. Geez, how much more lucky can you get that you're not on death row and you're not gonna be, pumped full of some kind of drug later or whatever it is nowadays. It's hard if any of you know that they're in Idaho, like the Brian Kohberger case and Chad Daybell, they're both facing the death penalty, and they're looking at making this firing squad station, and it's going to cost them about $700,000, which I don't understand because you can just get a few guys, take out some guns, go into a field and shoot the guys, but they want to make this firing squad station in Idaho. Now, they would never do that in California. California is, we're in a hippy dippy state where everybody's like love, and we don't want people to be executed, even if they, even if they did some awful, heinous crimes, and they, let's say, family annihilator, or this guy, he's basically a family annihilator when he took out Connor and Laci. And I 100%. Now that we're at the end of this, 100% would bet my life that he did this. If they were to find that somebody else did this and something was to be tested, let's say the van was tested, the burnt out van, and they got the blood and it was Laci's, I would be shocked. And I'm not going to be shocked because he did this. If you go back, and I do want to do that, I am going to do this because I do want anybody that wants to see it, even if you're not on my live, you want to rewatch it, I'll put it into a Scott Peterson folder and I'll play parts of the trial, whatever I can get my hands on. I do understand that you live in Woodside. No, I live in San Jose, California. I'm in Woodstock. Yeah, no. I guess so. I'm in San Jose, California. We're in the Silicon Valley, or the Bay Area, near San Francisco. And, we got Santa Cruz, San Francisco, a bunch of hippy dippy love. And I do love that everyone just lets you do your own thing. But I hate that we can't carry guns. I can't have my carry license here. And I have guns. They're all registered. And, you can't carry them. You can't do anything. If you shoot somebody that comes in your house, they can sue you. So yeah, that's really messed up. And the weather here today, the weather's 68 degrees. We were just having storms last week, and the storms are not like your guys' storms. Anywhere that lives in the Midwest or the East Coast or even Canada is, probably a lot colder. So we're close to 70 degrees here, and anybody that wants to come to California, come out. I'll take you to San Francisco. And yes, I love trials too. So I will go back because I did the Jeffrey Dahmer one, and I went back and I played, over an hour worth of material. But I think the Scott Peterson one is actually going to have, a lot more interesting information that you're going to see. I love this whole Amber Frey thing, and I love all the audio. And you know what? Barbara Walters did an interview with Scott Peterson, and that was amazing. So I want to play some clips from that. Not now, but I'll go back and do the Barbara Walters thing. He was freaking lying. Oh my God. Scott Peterson was straight up lying. His whole interview, they were pissed. Mark Garagos, ultimately, you know, that was his attorney and his family. Everybody that saw the interview was like, you shouldn't have done that, man. You cooked your own self. So did anybody see the Barbara Walters special with yeah, you're gonna come visit. You gotta bring Greeno, Carly. I'm gonna get in trouble here. Did anybody see the Barbara Walters interview? Because that was great. He was just a liar the whole time. If all you true crime junkies that see and know when someone's lying, and regular people, people that aren't even true crime junkies. Let me see, Barbara Walters with Scott Peterson. I think it was Barbara Walters, I believe. Let's see. Well, Barbara Walters. Oh no, it was Diane Sawyer. Oh, they'll pull it down if I put it up. But Diane Sawyer did an interview with him, and he was just straight up lying. Oh, look. So I found a CBS News Sacramento, and I could play a few minutes of it if you guys want to watch it. Hold on. He was lying. Barbara did shred people apart, but it was actually not Barbara Walters. She did an interview with the family. So let me put this one on here. This is crazy. All right. Let me see if I can play it. It's the archives, and it looks like a news station, but I won't play too long so I don't get pulled down. Let's see.
First of all, describe what the past month has been for you.
That's been absolutely terrible, as it is for everyone. I mean, you see us in press conference. You haven't seen me as much in the media, but you see our families and the raw emotion that's out there, and the grief, the frustration. You know, we go through a range of emotions, from anger to frustration to grief. For me, it comes at different times during the day. 2 weeks ago, I knew exactly what to do. I'd go to the volunteer center at the Red Lion and open up the center and wait for the volunteers to come and work on things. And then I'd go out and put up flyers. I knew exactly what to do, and that was going to bring Laci home.
Such a liar.
Exactly what to do, and that's so frustrating. That's the hardest part. I mean, we have a core group of volunteers still working to get her picture out there nationally through corporations and organizations, and obviously media and other means. So we continue to work tirelessly, many people do, to bring her home. And we can do that during the day, and unfortunately at night, don't know what to do, and the grief hits, and it's unbearable. But you also have to recognize that Laci is hurting worse than any of us. She's the one that's not with our family. She's the one that we need to find and bring home.
I know you have
So
moments.
that gives you focus. It gives you, there are times when you just.
So this is one of the interviews, or it's the interview, and they put it on CBS 13 Sacramento to make sure you know what it is. I'm going to play a few more minutes just so you can see. There are some parts in it. This is 22 minutes, and I don't want it to get pulled. This whole video to get pulled down now that we've gotten through it. But he's just such a liar. Like, things that he says in this, he clearly lies. And I think at one point he even uses past tense of Laci. She's not even gone that long. And during this interview, he texts somebody. They show behind the scenes where he's texting, and he's actually texting Amber Frey. So he's carrying on a relationship. He's texting his girlfriend, and he just blatantly lies and slips up and uses was. But I won't play. Let me just play a couple more minutes, and then, or as much as I can. 1 second.
Just can't continue, and if you're driving, you have to pull over and stop. And if you're doing something, you just can't continue. Try to stay busy and have a task, to know what to do, a positive task, and try to focus on that.
I know that there are certain areas you can't go to. It's hard to go to the park.
It's hard to go to Yeah, it's important though, because in the mornings when down there alone, I feel closer to her. Maybe that's a attempt to communicate or something. But yeah.
And you mentioned right off the start that you haven't been in the media.
No. It was for the first 3 days or so when she disappeared. It was an absolute privacy issue. Not showing the grief of our family, not exploiting that. After that, it was a conscious decision to remain out of the media eye, decided upon by everyone in the family and the volunteers in order to, and I'm sorry to say it to media, but to keep the media here, to keep them hungry.
I didn't even know that existed, that actual interview. So that's great. I'm going to pull up a bunch of more interviews and court clips, anything that I can find that can actually be used. And yeah, that was the time to throw away the mattress. I don't even know. Yeah, I don't know. We still don't know what happened. It sucks because like he's never gonna tell what happened because he's not on death row, so there's not going to be this last words where he tells anybody. And he's got the Innocence Project backing him up. He got off death row, so we're never going to find out exactly what happened. But most of the time, when something like that happens and somebody's really mad or wants to get rid of somebody, it's usually some kind of strangulation or like suffocation, something like that. So I'm going to speculate here that she was pregnant. She couldn't fight back. He probably pulled a Chris Watts type of situation where, yeah, she was pregnant too. Chris Watts' wife. So I'm gonna speculate here that that he pulled that. He probably suffocated her or something or strangled her. And yeah, she didn't give birth, but the baby sure came out and washed up ashore. So I think justice has been served for Laci. My title says, is Scott Peterson innocent? I think all of us are saying no. And yeah, I'm going to pull up some more stuff. I'll do a little more research. I'll do a part 2 on this. Juror 13. Thank you for always just sitting here and chilling with me. Sadie's mama, even if there's nobody on here keeping me company. Everybody, Carly, whenever you can be on here and you're not doing the thing with True Crime Investigates or whatever you got going on. All of you, everybody that's here, I appreciate that. And yeah, I'm gonna call this a wrap. I'm gonna call this a day, wrap it up, and restart this freaking computer because I've been struggling to do this live, and I didn't want to not do it, and I didn't want to let anybody down while we were right in the middle of it. So it's been a struggle, but I have new lighting. I've got a new microphone, and I got the new latest Bose Quiet Comfort headphones. So yeah, thank you so much. And yes, tomorrow at 2:00, I am going to show you the aftermath of the guilty verdict for Harmony Montgomery. Justice for Harmony Montgomery. Adam, you're in trouble. May, what day? I have the date down. It's not May. I think it's March. He's going to be sentenced. I'm going to show you that. I'm going to show you where the judge talks about the sentencing and says, Adam, you have to be there. I'm going to talk about all that tomorrow. I appreciate you all. I'm going to restart now. I'm going to get the computer good for tomorrow. Thank you so much, Carly. I appreciate that. Sadie's mama, everybody that watches, rewatches, shares, likes, all the new subscribers. That's great. All of you. You guys have a good, happy Friday. And don't be surprised if I pop back on here later because I find some new case and just happen to want to do a live. Have a good night. If anybody has any lives coming up, okay, it's May 9th. Awesome. I saw that. I saw the date. It's May 9th. I'm going to show the clips of that. I'm going to show Crystal Sorey talking. I'm going to show the closing statement so you could see what a mess it was. And I'll see all you later. Go have a good Friday night. And hopefully somebody has a cool live later. And I'll see you guys on there unless I pop back up. Have a good Friday, everybody. Thank you so much.